And we are live.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Grounds for Development. I'm your host, Greg the Hold, coming to you from the Northern Command Center. We're a little cold up here, having good old Canadian fall weather. And I'm joined, as always, by my good friend and co-host, Biff Kensington, down in the Southern Command Post. How are you doing today, Biff?
I'll trade you your Canadian winter for this tropical storm we have blowing in. I am not very much enjoying this weather down here. it's been hot and muggy, and the conditions have been ass. But we're getting through. We had plenty of good wrestling this week and this past weekend to kind of set the table for this crappy weather we have down here.
We definitely did, and in fact, we have a little bit of a special episode today because we had not just 205 Live and NXT, which we normally cover, but we also had a big championship match that happened in the land down under with Buddy Murphy and Cedric Alexander. So I think we may want to start with that one. What do you think there, Biff?
Yeah, I would say that's pretty cognizant to a 205 Live affairs. I am not going to do my Australian accent. I have enough trouble doing a Southern accent. But we talked about it for several weeks. They really did a great job of building up that cruiserweight title match in Melbourne. It was a perfect storm of influences all coming together just to make an incredible match. What else can we say? We have a new cruiserweight champion of the world. Buddy Murphy is your new 205 Live head honcho. He won the title from Cedric Alexander, my boy, the Queen City's favorite son. It hurts bad, but Cedric had a great title run. It was an absolutely fantastic match. I can't wait to dive into this. Best match of the entire show for my money, and probably the match of the week, and absolutely contender for one of the best pay-per-view matches of the year. This was really special.
Oh, definitely. This was such a good match. And I like that Buddy kind of played into the hometown crowd. He didn't go full face for it, which I appreciated. But he definitely wasn't healing it up quite as much as he usually does in some of his matches. But man, was that a spectacular match. Like, so many amazing moves throughout that. We had Buddy Murphy kicking out of a lumbar check. I can't recall anybody ever kicking out of the lumbar check, to be honest. It's probably happened at some point, but it's a pretty rare thing to see. So to see that kind of just added to the stakes that this championship match had. It meant that much to Buddy that, he laid it all on the line. Cedric Alexander laid it all out on the line, and wow, it was just great match.
And it was taken seriously too. The main roster, being surrounded by all the main roster matches from Super Showdown, there's been a really bad habit of 205 Live coming across almost like an afterthought on some of these pay-per-view pre-shows. But given the context of the match, Buddy Murphy and the hometown angle, and the crowd being into it, and just the absolute quality of the match, I would say, with all due respect to what Cedric Alexander has done with the title, what Neville did with the title before him, basically throughout the run of 205 Live since its inception, this is the first time that I really felt like the cruiserweights had a true place on the main roster, and it felt like they belonged there. It was that important of a match to the card. It was that big of a match. And, when we're just looking at the in-ring quality itself, the fact that it was the best match of the night, that in and of itself says a lot because, Buddy Murphy and Cedric Alexander are two of the most talented performers in the company. But just the gravitas of the match, it made it feel so much more important than it has before. And now the trick is, can this build and be sustained as we go through the winter and into next WrestleMania season? Because that's the ultimate goal. Cruiserweight title needs to be getting off of the pre-shows and onto the main shows, I think.
Oh, I agree with you. And if this was any indication, they are well on their way to doing so. Like you said, it was the best match of the card. It was given a place. It wasn't in a cool down spot. It was given a place of fairly high significance. And Buddy and Cedric totally delivered in the spots they were given. Hopefully, more eyeballs were put on the product, and hopefully more people check out the show, because it is always worth the look. I can't say it enough. We extol the virtues of 205 Live and NXT every week, and we're going to continue to do so until they give us a reason not to. And I can't foresee that happening, because yet again they're killing it this week again.
I hope not. I hope they don't give us a reason to stop caring, because it's been a really fun ride so far. But let me ask you a question, because I'm, watching this match and, just kind of feeling so satisfied by it. It's one thing to have high expectations going into a match. It's another thing for those expectations to be met and then some. Like, I felt this match, if they gave it enough time and they treated it with proper respect, this match could have been really good just by virtue of who was in it. Because we've seen Buddy Murphy and Cedric Alexander work all summer long on 205 Live. They have been absolutely fantastic. But I don't know that I completely understood ahead of time how great this match actually was going to be. In your opinion, does this match now supplant Mustafa Ali and Cedric Alexander for probably the most important match in the history of 205 Live in the Cruiserweight division?
You know what? I think it does. Like, it is definitely, been given the most, what's the word I'm looking for here? The most prestigious spot of them. It lived up to all the hype and beyond, as you said. Like, I was expecting a very, very good match, but this blew away my expectations. Like, these two gentlemen put it all on the line, and they delivered, and they delivered like in spades. Like, I do believe that, this has probably been the most important match on 205 Live history. And I can only say that it's probably going to go up from here, because Buddy Murphy's been on just an absolute tear for the last pretty well year. And you got like amazing guys for him to work with coming up. And even if he's rematching with Cedric Alexander, sign me up. I'll watch that again any day of the week, and twice on Sundays. So yeah, I think we've just got really good things in store for 205 Live going forward from here on out.
Well, it's interesting we talk about 205 Live, and really kind of the theme of the show over the last couple of weeks with 205 Live has been building up all of these different angles and almost creating a promotion within a promotion. There's different angles. There's some that are less important, some that are more important, but at different levels of the card on 205 Live, it feels like a little miniature promotion, kind of self-contained. But we've had some crossover with Drake Maverick and Leo Rush, and then the Cruiserweight title match being placed, in a spot where it could get, adequate spotlight and attention during Super Showdown. Maybe that was because of the hometown angle with Buddy Murphy. I mean, I would like to think that it was just because of the title match itself and how well it had been built. Hometown favoritism has not always been a fan. It's not always been a helpful thing to some of the performers of the WWE. Whenever you wrestle in your hometown, generally you're expected to lose. So, Buddy Murphy, you could say, kind of bucked the trend in that respect. But, with Buddy Murphy now being the Cruiserweight champion moving forward, we're looking ahead to all of the talent that's on 205 Live. We have some new talent that's apparently on the way in. We got a new debut to talk about here coming up. Do you think that we're looking at the type of champion in Buddy Murphy that could kind of cross over to Raw and do a little bit more on the Raw brand? Or do you think that Buddy Murphy is going to be mostly sticking with 205 Live, sort of how Cedric has been not really making the jump to Raw any.
Um, I don't know. It's hard to say. I'd love to see the jump being made and get the guys back on Raw, do it a little more with them. Buddy Murphy can hang with anybody that's in the company, so there's no worry in ring quality with that. So, although I could say the same for Cedric Alexander, so I'm not sure why they weren't doing that. Maybe they're just trying to get 205 Live its own identity, be its own promotion, so to speak. But yeah, I'm not sure whether they will do that, but I'd be more than happy to see it happen if it does.
Yeah, it seems like they kind of stopped that when Neville took the title for some reason. Like they kind of started phasing down the cruiserweight activity on Raw and started kind of just keeping it on 205 Live, which has had ups and downs. On the one hand, it limits exposure to some people because obviously Raw and SmackDown are going to have the highest ratings of any WWE show during a given week. But at the same time, it's also allowed for those self-contained storylines to kind of be separated from the rest of the main roster. And I don't dare presume to speak for you, but I think I would know your answer to this. The storylines in 205 Live are much closer in quality to NXT than the main roster. Would that be a fair assessment of your opinion?
Oh, absolutely. It just seems like whoever's writing for NXT and 205 Live, they're just putting that extra little bit of care into what's happening. They're not relying on just the championship rematch clause or this or that. I mean, 205 Live right now has the whole heritage with the Lucha Underground and the whole Lucha Libre respecting the mask thing going on with TJP. And we'll get into it a little bit later. It happened a little bit today, and TJP wasn't even on the episode. But it's, they're tying in little aspects of those kind of things and giving the show an overall arc that, is far and away better than anything that we're seeing on Raw anyways. SmackDown has a little bit of it going on, but the writing's just far, far superior on these two shows than it is to either of the main roster shows.
Yeah, it's more episodic, I think. It allows you to kind of become more ingratiated into the show's storylines because everything kind of gets a nice little recap, whether during the show or before the show when they kind of go over some of the recent events that have transpired. When we talk about 205 Live here in just a moment, they're talking about the Cruiserweight title match in Melbourne, also looking at the TJP situation with Lucha House Party. Of course, Leo Rush factors in very heavily to this week's episode of 205 Live. And he's another one of those individuals who've really been making a big name for themselves on Raw. So, honestly, it's exciting to see some of the changes that have come to 205 Live. I can definitely speak for both of us. Very happy that 205 Live is doing better on Wednesday nights. Apparently, its viewership has gone up significantly. So that kind of little wrestling block with 205 Live and NXT and the Mae Young Classic, that really seems to be drawing a lot of eyeballs right now, which is great. The more people get turned on to it, the better. But yeah, a fantastic cruiserweight title match. It was everything we had hoped it would be. A pretty substantial match too. It wasn't too quick. It was a nice long match. It was a quality match, hard hitting. Left you in suspense until the very end. Didn't know if they were going to pull the trigger on the title change, but in fact they did. They went for the big hometown moment. I was pretty shocked. I had picked Buddy Murphy to win, but that shows you how confident I was in my pick, that I was actually surprised at the end of the match. Did the end of the match catch you by surprise, or did you expect Buddy Murphy to walk out with a title?
No, actually, I had I had been going back and forth. Well, both of us had for the last couple of weeks as we were talking about this. But I had actually finally settled on Cedric Alexander retaining. So I was actually very surprised by the end of it. I was expecting the kick out, and when it didn't happen, I was a little shocked and pleasantly surprised. So Yeah, I was very, very happy with the outcome of that match, and I'm very excited to see where the championship storyline goes with Buddy Murphy. It's exciting. It'll be good. It opens up new avenues, and it should be an exciting run.
Well, speaking of Buddy Murphy's title, and we can't talk about the champion without the former champion. We did get some interesting continuation of Cedric Alexander's story on this week's episode of 205 Live, and it's as good a time as any to jump into it. We're going to be looking at the matches that took place here. We're also going to be talking about the different segments. But just as a general summation of last night's episode of 205 Live, I think my best reaction would be wow, shock almost. Last night was probably one of the most shocking episodes of 205 Live, not from the perspective of major heel turn or face turn or surprise debut, although we did have some new 205 Live talent to talk about, but just the way they set this program up, especially coming off the heels of Super Showdown with the main event in particular. We talked about Tony Nese last week when we were speaking on his match with Johnny Gargano and how excellent Tony Nese looked. And wouldn't you know it, he comes up this week, and not only is he in the main event of 205 Live, he gets a huge marquee win over Cedric Alexander. Now, this absolutely floored me last night. You would not expect Cedric Alexander to be dropping a decision that quickly after losing the title to Buddy Murphy. You would almost expect him to pick up the big emotional rebound win, get set up for a rematch down the line. They had other ideas tonight. They had other ideas, and I want to start off with that main event because it is such a shocking result to me. I'm going to get you two-pronged question here. First, did you see this coming with Cedric Alexander losing back-to-back matches? And two, and probably more importantly for 205 Live, where on earth has Tony Nese come from over the last couple of weeks? Because he has absolutely been hot fire, and he is really establishing himself as a worthy candidate to take on his old buddy, Buddy Murphy, as Cruiserweight Champion.
Yeah, no, I was completely surprised by that. I was totally like you, expecting the redemption story from Cedric Alexander. They were doing, the whole hyping it, the travel issue that, and I mean, yeah, that's a long flight. Like I've had friends that have lived down in Australia for months at a time, and it's like something like a 22-hour flight, and it's kind of ridiculous. So, yeah, that's going to take anything out of anybody. But what was expected, yes, Cedric's going to overcome this. He's going to, get his win back, go on to re-face Buddy Murphy, and we'll go from there. But I loved the story that they were telling on throughout the match, and the showing of frustration by Cedric Alexander when some of his big moves weren't working the way they were wanting to. That Tony Nese always seemed to have a little answer for everything that Cedric was doing. And you could see that, and they built it so nicely throughout the match, where it started just little hints of it, and then just more and more and more as it went. So still was expecting Cedric to pull out the upset win, but to see Nese take it, yeah, wow, that was a super big surprise to me. And yeah, I totally agree with you. Where in the world did Tony Nese come from? I mean, we all know that he's a great athlete. He's the premier athlete. He's got a great look. He's been on 205 Live. He's been having decent matches, but these last 2 weeks, like, this is definitely Tony Nese's coming out party. This man is looking amazing. I'd be down to see him face Buddy Murphy, or let's see these two just run roughshod over the whole 205 Live show for a little while and see how that turns out. Maybe we'll see some amazing tag matches between Buddy Murphy and Tony Nese, and give me Cedric Alexander and Mustafa Ali facing those. I'll watch that any day of the week.
I could settle into that quite nicely. I think it would be tough. You'd have to twist my arm a little bit, but I could settle into it and enjoy those tag matches. It's just so interesting. We talk about Tony Nese last week and how it was really a statement for him to put on such a great match, and here he comes this week. And not only does he put on another great statement match, but he has probably the biggest win of his WWE career to date over the former Cruiserweight champion. Wow, that's going to be really sad to say for a while. Former Cruiserweight champion Cedric Alexander. But you know what? I mean, as painful as the loss is for Alexander, it is building, I think, to a story, hopefully, for him. As far as Tony Nese goes, it was just amazing watching his confidence build as the match went on. You could almost see him as a character rising to the moment, just as his actual persona in the ring was rising to the moment and kind of besting Cedric in the ring. It was great storytelling. But yeah, wow. I mean, I don't know where Tony Nese goes from here, but the sky is definitely the limit for him. He could have some real impact on this show over the next couple of months if he keeps wrestling at this level.
Yeah, totally. And I'm looking forward to the stories they tell with him. I've always been aware of Tony Nese on 205 Live and from the Cruiserweight Classic there. But man, the last couple of weeks, I am becoming a big fan. Like, I hope he continues this hot streak he's on, because it's been amazing. Yeah, it's good stuff. And if it eventually leads to a Buddy Murphy Tony Nese matchup, that'll be some fun stuff as well.
Well, this was one of the more surprising episodes, and the main event absolutely played a huge role in that. Of course, the title change kind of setting the table for tonight's episode of 205 Live. Just all the whole show last night was just, one kind of surprise after another. We did open with a video package on the title match, which was obviously a given. That's kind of the top angle on 205 Live at any one time. So they did rehash the title match from Melbourne. But we started off with Lio Rush. Now, Lio Rush has been an interesting figure in 205 Live the last couple of weeks. Had a little bit of a feud with Noam Dar that he was able to pick up a big win over. Coming into tonight, he was establishing an open challenge, basically, and was not actually expecting Lince Dorado to answer that challenge. I got to be completely honest. But you know what? I'm kind of glad he did, because this was another very solid match. It was more of an appetizer than the full entree because it did end via disqualification. So you kind of get the impression that there's more that could come from this down the line if they wanted to. But we also had another one of the surprises last night pop in during this match. So, I'm going to pose the question to you. What was your big takeaway from this? Obviously, the match itself, being worth discussing. But this whole, infusion of Maria Kanellis and Mike Bennett into the scene. I mean, I didn't see this coming. I got to be completely honest. I was going in a little blind here. So, I mean, you take Leo's promo to start the match, the actual match itself. Here comes Bennett and Kanellis. It's just one series of shocks after another here. And it really kind of kept me on the edge of my seat watching this. What did it do for you?
Yeah, no, it was good stuff. Leo was great on the mic at the start there, being a little smarmy heel kind of stain that he is. So he did a great job there. I wasn't expecting Lince to answer the call. I wasn't sure who was going to answer the call, to be perfectly honest. But you hit the nail right on the head. It was a great match. There's definitely more that could be done with it. They had a really nice little dueling move segment right at the start where they were trading drop kicks and monkey flips and arm bars and arm drags and such. It was a nice little segment. Then we had Lio Rush try to take a page out of TGP's book and try to remove Lindsay's mask. You could tell that they were kind of holding back a little bit but it didn't take away from the match at all. But seeing Mike Canales come out and interrupt the match, like, where in the world did that come from? Like, did anybody even realize that he was still with WWE? When was the last time we even saw Maria or Mike Canales? I honestly don't really know a whole lot of how he is as a wrestler. I haven't seen a whole lot of him other than his brief little run on SmackDown when he debuted here. So I'm interested to see more of him. I'd like to learn more about him. We all know that Maria is great on the mic. I think she'll infuse a little interest and life into the show as well. So she's a great ad, but good to see some new faces debuting and see where things lead.
Short of the main event, which is a different type of surprise, honestly. The main event was a surprise in the sense it didn't expect Tony Nese to win. This was a surprise of an entirely different sort. I'm with you. I did not expect Bennett and Canellis to come out. I'm glad they did, especially for Maria, because Maria, when she left WWE and went to Ring of Honor, she kind of forged a brand new character for herself. She became one of the best valets and managers in wrestling, I thought. And yes, there was a definite part of her presentation in Ring of Honor and even in Japan that's a little bit more risque. I completely understand that, and they're not going to be focusing so much on that in WWE. But nonetheless, that wasn't the sum total of her character either. She had that manipulative persona down pat, so we know that she could be a great manager, a great presence outside the ring. Mike Bennett, I've never been what you would consider a huge fan of his work, but at the same time, it is good that he's getting a chance to shine on 205 Live. I think if there's any environment where he could succeed right now, it would be 205 Live, because I feel like there's more opportunities for people to really take advantage of airtime. Whereas on SmackDown and Raw, you're kind of lost in the shuffle. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Bennett and Canellis and how they kind of play into the storylines moving forward. As far as Lio Rush goes, what is your takeaway on Lio Rush as a performer? Because we know the company obviously values his characterization. They value his ability to talk. How does Lio Rush, the wrestler, strike you right now? Do you think that his size inhibits him a little bit, or do you think that it kind of plays into that cockiness that really makes that character work so well?
You know what? I think it works for the character. He's got, that small man syndrome. I'm sure you've met several shorter men that have the need to prove themselves, and it works with his character. And I kind of see that vibe coming off him. And the cockiness, it works. He's great on the mic. He does the good little stuff, and you just kind of want to make sure it makes you want to see him get beat down. And I don't know if you saw on Twitter afterwards, he was saying it's like, even though Lindsay Dorado won this by DQ, he wasn't pinned or submitted, so he's still undefeated. So it's little things like that he's working really well as a character, and I believe that the size kind of works in this case. It's kind of an opposite of the Rey Mysterio back in the day when he was the ultimate babyface, kind of taking on all the giants, where Lio Rush is kind of playing the opposite role. He's the bug that you could just kind of want to see smashed, and eventually somebody's going to do it, and everybody's going to be cheering their heads off because he's doing everything he can to make sure that he deserves that squashing.
It's just another kind of cog in the machine that is 205 Live right now, where it feels like there's a world of potential for anyone that's willing to step up and take it. And we saw that last night with Mike Bennett and Maria Kanellis coming out. We see this with Lio Rush, especially on Raw, and his relationship with Bobby Lashley. Drake Maverick, even the commissioner of 205 Live, and his interaction with the Authors of Pain. It just feels like there's so much potential for so many different people. This was a solid match. I don't think I liked it as much as the main event. But then the main event was more of a full match, whereas this was kind of setting up for the surprise entrance. So I can't really hold that too much against them. But this was actually one of the only 2 matches on the show this week. There was more in the way of video packages than there was actual wrestling. We had the new champ, Buddy Murphy, delivering a promo, one of those self-shot promos from back in Australia, apparently. Not going to be at 205 Live in the interim. He's going to definitely be one of those pay me so that I come type of champs. He's not going to be the workhorse that Cedric Alexander was necessarily, and nor should he be. Not as a heel champion, which he's going to be a heel champion moving forward. The Juggernaut's going to show up when the Juggernaut wants to. So that is very good. We did have a recap of the big turn from last week. Of course, if you were listening to the show last week or if you watched, you know that the little trio of Drew Gulak, Jack Gallagher, and the Brian Kendrick are no more. Gulak and Gallagher turned on Brian Kendrick, ostensibly turning him face in the process. They cut a promo here talking about why they decided to turn on Kendrick. Of course, Akira Tozawa is still kind of hanging around in their periphery. But Drew and Jack make no bones about it. They are still considering themselves a force to be dealt with in 205 Live. So my question for you, Greg, is, when you took the bulk of this promo with Gulak and Gallagher, did you buy into it? Are you buying into this rationale for turning on Brian Kendrick? Or does this still kind of feel like out of left field for you?
It still feels a little bit out of left field. Still scratching my head that, that really did come out of the blue. But I like where they're going with it. And they're building a story behind it. They're not just saying, hey, it happened and leaving it there. They're trying to give some rationalization to it. So I give them props for that. I'm willing to see where it goes, see the build that they do on it. But yeah, right now it's still feeling like, it was a little bit rushed and out of nowhere, but I'm willing to see where they go with it for sure.
It's so interesting, because also we had the promo package last night with Cedric Alexander and Mustafa Ali, which is where we found out that not only are we getting the next match in the Ali Hideo Itami program in 2 weeks, it's going to be a Falls Count Anywhere match. You talk about exciting. Holy crap. that's
going to be a good one.
Amazing match coming up in 2 weeks. So definitely be there, be square, everybody, for that one.
Yeah, you're going to have that's going to be an exciting match. Like, it's definitely on my I cannot miss this list.
It's just been like an incredible month of those types of matches between 205 Live and NXT, and then the Cruiserweight title match and Super Showdown. It's like, thank you, WWE. It's almost like our payment for sitting through Raw every week is getting a little ray of sunshine, just a little bit of a fix every week, just to give us a little bit of extra. But yeah, we had the Cedric Alexander promo with Mustafa Ali, talking about Cedric's match with Tony Nese last night. But, setting up the Hideo Itami match in the promo here, Gulak and Gallagher basically laying the groundwork for what's going to be a feud with the Brian Kendrick when he returns. We are just constantly building new layers of stories for 205 Live. And the best part about it is they've got such a wealth of story possibilities right now, between TJP and his interaction with Lucha House Party. Leo Rush establishing himself as a big name in 205 Live. The new champion, Buddy Murphy. You've got the Gallagher and Gulak and Kendrick situation now kind of ready to explode. Mustafa Ali and Hideo Itami still have their feud. You don't have to touch every feud every week. You can cycle back and forth between them as needed. Everything stays fresh, but everything stays meaningful. I mean, this is Wrestling 101. This is how you're supposed to book a wrestling show. It amazes me that they can do this good a job on 205 Live And not everyone has to be a big fan of the angle. I'm not saying that every single angle is like the greatest of all time or anything, but it's just simple, logical storytelling. Everything has a purpose. Everything has happened for a reason, and it just flows from week to week so seamlessly. I don't understand why it's so much trouble for them to do this on Raw and sometimes SmackDown, but especially Raw, when it seems so effortless for them to do it on 205 Live. I don't understand why it's so difficult for them.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the nice thing is it's not so yeah, you just listed off all the stories, the 5 or 6 different arcs that are going on. They're all different. They're not based off of the same thing. Like it's there's different motivations behind every angle that's going on. And it's not hard. It's what wrestling should be. It's what most of us grew up watching and what most of us love. I would wish that Raw and SmackDown to a lesser degree, but would be able to do this kind of storytelling. It's way more effective. It gives you more investment in what's happening. Hopefully, eventually, something will happen, and that stuff trickles up to the main roster. And well, I'd say viewership would go up when those kind of things happen.
Well, I think if there's one thing that could define 205 Live right now, and it's also defines NXT in its own special way, but it's really been defining NXT since its beginning, but 205 Live in particular here lately, it feels like the land of opportunity. It just feels like you come in and you have an opportunity to make a name for yourself, to get yourself a storyline that allows you to develop character arcs, that allows you to explore your persona. We see it with Leo Rush. We see it with Tony Nese. We've seen it with Buddy Murphy. Now we're seeing it with Gulak and Gallagher and Kendrick, TJP. The list goes on and on and on. 205 Live just feels like a land of opportunity. And whether you're down with every angle or not, at least you know ahead of time that these angles are going to make sense, that it's going to be a natural progression. You don't have to insert segues with a chainsaw and like you're splicing 2 completely different storylines together. They're going to flow smoothly. You're not going to break your immersion watching the show. That's the greatest gift that a wrestling show can give you. If you can watch the entire show without breaking your immersion in that show to question why things are happening, that it means you're being sucked in by the content. And, that's the highest praise I can give to 205 Live right now. It's a place where people can have a shot. And that's not a given on Raw. It's not even a given on SmackDown. But you come to 205 Live and you have any sort of talent whatsoever, you're going to get a chance to show it. And when you show it, big things could happen for you. And so for me, 205 Live is equal parts the land of opportunity and the land of promise. If you had to describe the show right now, and I know I kind of put you on the spot with this, but that's what we want. We want the authentic, just the immediate reaction here. If you had to describe 205 Live and what it's been over the last couple of months, how would you describe it? Like, what's your knee-jerk reaction when someone asks you to sum up 205 Live in 5 words or less?
One of the best wrestling shows out there right now. And for the reasons that you said, they give the performers time to breathe. You need to develop your character, and you don't see it as much on the main roster. A promo goes off the rails, and the next thing you know, this person, you're not seeing them anymore. I'm not saying that every promo or every character is working 100% on 205 Live, but they give them the opportunity to tweak what they're doing. They give them the opportunity to build on what's working, do a tweak if it's not working so much. And we're seeing just reaping the benefits from it. For the most part, everybody that's in the main event scene is, a compelling character. There's a reason to care about the stories they are. Like you said, you may not care for every story out there, and that's fine. Wrestling, as with any other form of entertainment or art form, is subjective. Not everybody's going to like the same thing. But if you give this a chance, I'm going to guarantee you there's going to be a storyline on this show that's going to catch your attention, that you're going to enjoy. And yeah, it's a great, usually it's about 45 to 50 minutes of your week. You're not going to go wrong checking it out. It's pretty much it and NXT right now are my two go-to shows for WWE. If I miss Raw, if I miss SmackDown, I try to get this to them during the week, but I want to see what's happening 205 Live at NXT every single week. It's must-see TV for me.
And there it is. It's must-see TV. And especially when you look at the main event matches that we've had in 205 Live here lately, whether it was Cedric and Drew Gulak or the Hideo Itami Mustafa Ali match that we had a few weeks ago, or the match we're getting in 2 weeks. They set up these matches that make you absolutely have to tune in, and you have to see them. You just want to watch it. You have to watch it. You feel like you're missing out if you're not watching. And NXT has been like that too here lately. They've been coming off of TakeOver Brooklyn, and I think they've been having a really strong run of programming. Of course, we are always covering NXT, and oh boy, are we happy to be covering it tonight, because we had one of the best matches on paper that we could have had in Ricochet, Adam Cole, and Pete Dunne. Last night's episode of NXT was very similar to 205 Live in how it was structured. It was kind of all built around that main event. Not as much action in the ring this week, but what action there was, obviously, was big time. So, any closing thoughts on 205 Live before we jump down to Full Sail to cover last night's episode of NXT?
No, other than it was a solid show. You got a surprise debut. You got a surprise result in the main event. The main event was a great match that you should definitely check out. And the Lio Rush, Lindsay Dorado match was definitely not a bad match by any stretch of the imagination. There more that they could do with that, but it's still an enjoyable match to check out. It's a strong episode. You're not going to go wrong checking it out.
What kind of grade would you give last night's 205 Live? I'm thinking probably somewhere in the B to B plus range for myself.
Yeah, I'd put it at a solid B plus personally. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's only one half of last night's awesome action. Well, technically 1/3 of it. Definitely want to give some Mae Young Classic episodes some love, although we don't cover it here on this show. Definitely, if you enjoy women's wrestling, quality women's wrestling, probably the best that you're going to see in the WWE system by far. Some amazing matches been going on. Wednesday nights, just in general, have just been fantastic for wrestling. I don't know about you, but it's just having a blast, making Wednesday night kind of like the premier night of the week for just pure in-ring wrestling goodness. It's just such a great block that they have with these 3 distinct shows, all presenting different takes on wrestling, whether it's women's wrestling from the Mae Young Classic, the Cruiserweights, or what NXT has become, really kind of a bastion of pro wrestling in the world of sports entertainment. It's just really, really great. But before we jump into NXT talk, we'd like to give out some plugs to some of our sister shows. I don't know if it was announced on Shooting the Breeze or not, but Greg, my friend, we have made it. We are official members of Los Ingobernables podcast, a little fraternity of podcasts that kind of built up around several Cage Side Seats alumni that have developed shows over the last couple of years. It's a really high honor for our young podcast, not even a month old yet, to be getting that kind of backing and support. A huge thank you to Taker's Minion, to all of the members of the club that let us in. It means a lot to us that you liked our show that much and have enjoyed what you've been hearing. Of course, we wouldn't be anything without you, the listener, who keeps tuning in week to week. Thank you so much for participating with us by listening. Be sure to pound that subscribe button. If you like what you hear, give the videos a thumbs up. You can check out our advert threads over at Cateside Seats. We always throw up polls in them. Be sure to jump in, discuss what we've been talking about. You like it, you don't like it, you can hit us up on Twitter. All of our contact information for the show is down in the info box. Definitely want to make sure that you check out Two Guys, One Sports tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. Crazy Chris and Curtain Jerker, my good friend George Savas, have just an absolutely fantastic show. It's the second night of their fantasy draft. And contrary to popular opinion, I was not crying last week. I might have moaned and groaned a little bit, but Biff does not cry unless he's watching Field of Dreams or Rudy. So let's dispel that right now. But you know what? We're still going to give them a plug because they're nice. Going to give a plug and a shout out to our friends Taker's Minion and Mr. Doc Sinju over at the Shoot and Debris team. That show drops every Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern on YouTube, 10 a.m. Eastern on the weekend of the Big Four shows. They are going to be moving to Twitch in December, I believe it is. And so very much looking forward to seeing what becomes of that move. And obviously our sister show on Monday evenings, 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, The Connoisseurs of Wrestling with George Savas, Legends Lover, Taker Minion, and myself, Biff Kensington, just talking wrestling history. And, you know, between talking wrestling history on Monday night and getting a chance, Greg, to talk NXT and 205 Live with you on Wednesdays and just, you know, covering all of this great content that we have on Wednesdays right now, it's just been so much fun. It makes your Thursday mornings a little bit brighter to know that you've got some good wrestling to catch back up on if you didn't get a chance to watch the shows the night before. That's what we're here for.
Absolutely. And just wanted to say a big shout out and thank you to all the big boys letting us join the cool club. Greatly appreciated. And just reiterating what you said, we love all of you guys that listen to the show. We wouldn't be here without you. Please keep pounding that subscribe button and listen to us. We love doing what we're doing, and it's all for you. So keep listening, and we'll keep putting them out.
And now that we have our plugs out of the way, we can jump into our main event tonight, which is going to be NXT Talk. First and foremost, got to give props straight away. On a show that featured a triple threat match with Pete Dunne, Ricochet, and Adam Cole, Tommaso Ciampa continues to be freaking amazing. His promo to start the show. I got to be honest with you. I have to be 100% honest. We've talked at length over the course of the show about the Aleister Black storyline because it's really the central theme of NXT right now. And we've talked about how all of the different storylines have spun out of it. And, you know, we've been talking about, you know, the resolution that's coming. And while I am still very much looking forward to seeing where that goes, and we had a big step forward in that angle tonight, you know, I am almost as excited for Tommaso Ciampa and Velveteen Dream to wrestle as I am figuring out the Aleister Black scenarios that could happen moving forward. Tommaso Ciampa and Velveteen Dream just have an amazing chemistry on the microphone. And honestly, you know, if you're talking about just two of the best in terms of character and promo work right now in the WWE system, I don't think you could do any better than Tommaso Ciampa and Velveteen Dream. They're both so unique in their own way. And if that wasn't enough, of course, we have, you know, this amazing little interview here. Nikki Cross, of course, getting involved. It's just, I can't say enough about how they structured this opening segment. Just absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. What did you think of it? Did you like Nikki Cross getting involved in this? The Tommaso Ciampa Velveteen Dream interaction? Are you looking forward to that match? And does this do anything for you in terms of the main storyline kind of putting any more seeds of doubt into who do you think attacked Aleister Black. There's just so much to unpack here. Let's just dive feet first into it. What did you take away from this promo segment to open the show?
Oh my God, did I love this. It was on a show that was built on the triple threat main event that we're going to talk about coming up. You just had a triple threat like promo segment that was just incredible. This was unbelievable. We go on rants about how great Tommaso Ciampa is and how great Velveteen Dream is. You put these two guys in the same ring and put mics in their hands. Oh, this was, I've still got chills thinking about this. Dream comes out looking kind of like Ving Rhames from Con Air after, with the glasses and everything there. That's the first place my head went to with those glasses. Like, it's just awesome.
Greatest name drop ever. That's amazing.
It was so good. And then Ciampa with the line of the night in any promo segment on the show with talking to his title and just saying that Dream's just not tough enough. Oh, that dig had me just like, oh, this is amazing. And just as this is going on, this is just Ciampa and Dream so far. And then you got Nikki Cross coming out and interrupting this. This is to borrow your favorite. I've still got the vapors from this. This was amazing.
The greatest part of this whole deal was the crowd response when Nikki Cross came out. It's like you could almost feel like there's certain times where you just feel like the audible from a crowd. I call it, and I'm not trying to be crude here, I call it the butthole pucker, where it's like, it's like everything kind of tenses up and you're like, oh crap, what the hell is going on here? Here comes Nikki Cross. And it's just like it escalated because Velveteen Dream and Tommaso Ciampa were having such a back and forth, a little tete-a-tete that they were going through there. Tommaso Ciampa, God's gift to wrestling right now, but he's operating on like Super Saiyan level 4 territory right now. He's just completely a joy and a treasure. Like, this man deserves your love and your respect and your fealty. Nikki Cross coming in, I'm a huge Nikki Cross mark. I've made no bones about hiding that. I will say this, when, it almost looked like she was going to get hit for a second there, it was like, I don't know about this. If Tommaso Ciampa had hit Nikki Cross, Tommaso Ciampa would have surpassed Jake Roberts in '91 as the all-time dickhead heel. He might not have gotten out of Full Sail alive. So, for his sake, for Velveteen Dream's sake, they didn't get physical with Nikki Cross. Although I'm sure Nikki Cross could kick ass with the best of them if she wanted to. So it's an interesting dynamic. You don't see men and women interact like this very often. Not with this context and not in this type of setup. But you know what it does for me? It elevates Nikki Cross that much higher and makes her feel like that much bigger of a deal, which is going to be important when she gets her hands on Bianca Belair again, because we know that's coming very soon too. So it's just, it just kind of flows. It just elevates everybody. Tommaso Ciampa as the NXT champion obviously has a lot of cachet right now. Velveteen Dream doesn't feel he's never felt this important on the show as he does right now. It's like Velveteen Dream's time is coming. Nikki Cross getting involved in this, just taking up the crazy factor to 11. I cannot gush over this enough. This was almost my favorite part of the show. Almost more fun with this promo segment than with the main event. Honest to God, almost more fun with this.
I agree with you completely. And the other thing that I loved so much about this is you've got Velveteen Dream in here, whose bread and butter is making everybody around him uncomfortable, doing whatever, is getting freaked out by Nikki Cross. Nikki Cross makes the man who's making everybody else uncomfortable so uncomfortable that he bails from the ring. Like, she slayed it in this segment. All three of them did, but this was just incredible. Definitely give this segment a view, because it's worth your time.
We once we move past this segment, and it's kind of hard to move past this segment because everything else kind of feels like Mickey Mouse by comparison. We did have another match in addition to the main event to cover, and this man is no small potatoes. Let's put it that way. Keith Lee getting a big match here on NXT, and he just polarizing the crud out of Conor Reeves, which I think qualifies him for sainthood. Personally, I think it's a public service to lay the beat down on Conor Reeves. Briefly, right quick, before this match, we did have a little bit of a kind of a preview, not necessarily a video package, but just kind of a little brief segment with Adam Cole and Pete Dunne getting ready for the main event. Definitely wanted to throw that in there because that was also, one of the major themes of this show. I know we haven't talked much about it yet, but that triple threat match did loom large over this broadcast. But so did Keith Lee. Keith Lee had, a really impressive showing here. Conor Reeves, Conor is very polarizing. A lot of people don't like him. And while I can't say that I'm like a huge fan of his, I don't necessarily see him as being, so dramatically overrated. Let's be completely clear here. Keith Lee pretty much demolished him last night. This was basically just a glorified showcase for Keith Lee. So I don't know where all of the hate is coming for Conor Reeves. But what did you think, number one, of Keith Lee's showcase here last night? And number two, do you have any thoughts on Conor Reeves as a performer that you'd like to weigh in on here?
I think Keith Lee is incredible. This match didn't show completely what Keith Lee does, but it's a nice little appetizer. Like that belly to belly over the top rope that he threw. Wow, man. Can you imagine the kind of strength it takes to do that to someone? And he's got the facial expressions and everything down pat. Like on his comeback at the end there, as Reeves is punching him in the face, and he's just kind of no selling it and giving that look. Like, I mean, if a man that size gave me that look, I would be crapping my pants as I ran away. And then he, smashes Reeves with the supernova for the win. Going to Conor Reeves, I'm kind of indifferent to him. He doesn't do anything for me, really. But at the same token, he wasn't doing anything wrong. The character was what it was supposed to be. It gave Keith Lee somebody to squash. I think the kid's got talent. We'll kind of see where it goes. I don't think he deserves the hate that he's kind of been getting, but at the same token, he doesn't. I don't know. He's just kind of there for me.
Yeah, Conor Reeves. I think Conor Reeves is going to have some more time in developmental to really flesh out what he wants to be. I think it's obvious the company does have future plans for him because he does have a good look. He's not all the way there in the ring yet, but he does get a lot of guff, and I don't think that all of it's warranted necessarily because he's not really being treated like a main event superstar here. Obviously, Keith Lee barely had any use for him. And Keith Lee, you talk about someone with just freakish power. We're all counting down the days to where Keith Lee and Matt Riddle get a chance to wrestle again. That I always go back to the spots. I guess it was in one of the Battle for Los Angeles shows. It's the only place that I could think that this would have taken place at. But Keith Lee just bulldozing Matt Riddle and sending him flying through the air all the way across the ring. It's like the RVD bump of a pile driver for 2018. I'm just so looking forward to seeing Keith Lee and Matt Riddle get a chance to tangle in NXT because if there's any justice in the universe, that match is going to happen sooner rather than later. Speaking of Matt Riddle, we had a bunch of promo packages and backstage segments this week to cover, and one of them is the continuation of what appears to be a setup for a Cassius Ohno Matt Riddle match at what I would guess to be would be NXT Takeover War Games in November, which we are getting pretty close to that now. Actually, we're only about a month out from the next Takeover special, and so we're going to be finding out very quickly the direction that the brand's going to be going for that show in November. Cassius Ohno catching up with William Regal, just dropping more and more hints about the GM and his bromance, quote unquote, with who obviously is going to be Matt Riddle. So that should be fun. Definitely looking forward to that. Obviously, we had some more information kind of passed along for the NXT Women's title match coming up at Evolution. Kairi Sane defending her championship against Shayna Baszler. They kind of did the same thing this week that they did last week with the video package for Shayna. Training, basically getting ready to take her title back, just kind of downplaying Kairi Sane's upset win, I guess you would call it, in Brooklyn. Kairi Sane talking to people backstage, just excited to be going to Evolution. In terms of those title matches, I know this is kind of out of our wheelhouse a little bit. There are 3 women's championship matches scheduled for Evolution right now. And it was made official on Tuesday night that Charlotte Flair would be getting one more rematch attempt against Becky Lynch at Evolution. That's for the SmackDown Women's Championship. And all signs are pointing to Ronda Rousey defending her Raw Women's Championship against Nikki Bella. But this match here, Kairi Sane and Shayna Baszler, with all due respect to Ronda, to Becky Lynch and the run that she's been on, to Charlotte Flair, to everyone, I don't know about you, but Kairi Sane versus Shayna Baszler may be the actual title match to watch at Evolution. It may have the best story behind it coming in, depending on your thoughts on the Becky Lynch turn over the last month and a half. But it definitely could stand as the best match of the 3 title matches at Women's Evolution. Do you like the way they've been building up this rematch? Does it kind of make you feel like a legit sporting event here? Or is the slow burn for you almost too much with everything else going on in NXT overshadowing it?
You know what? No, I like the build to this. I'm loving how Shayna Baszler's not giving Kairi Sane any respect at all. It's like, she didn't beat me. I made a mistake, and I'm going to eliminate my mistake. You know, she's not owning up to the fact that she was beaten fair and square. It's that it was a fluke, and it's never going to happen again. It plays perfectly into her cocky Queen of Spades attitude. I'm loving it. I think these promo videos have been great. Yeah, and I kind of agree with you. Like, I think it's going to probably be the title match to watch at Evolution. Charlotte and Becky has been good. It's, you know, and it's probably going to be a solid match. But this one, I think, is going to blow it away in terms of in-ring quality. And Ronda Rousey, Nikki Bella, well, I don't really even care to see that, to be perfectly honest.
You and me both, pal. You're preaching to the choir on that one. So, but no, I back up everything you said. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see how the NXT Championship is presented next to the Raw Women's title and the SmackDown Women's title. Obviously, the SmackDown Women's title got a lot of cachet right now thanks to the Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair storyline, which has been one of the hottest angles in all of the company over the last couple of weeks. Ronda and Nikki, we're going to see where that storyline's going because obviously that turn is still fresh for Monday night. But it's all but assured that'll be the championship match for the Raw brand. And here we have Kairi Sane and Shayna Baszler getting set up for a rematch from what I thought was a really good match at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. We'll have to wait and see how the Long Island crowd responds. The Nassau Coliseum has not always been the best of venues for passionate crowds historically. But we'll see. We'll see what winds up happening on that front. But this was very much a no-nonsense type of episode because We're going to go straight into the main event. This was the match the show was kind of built around. Uh, Pete Dunne, Adam Cole, and Ricochet have been crossing paths a lot since Brooklyn. Ricochet, of course, took the North American Championship off of Adam Cole in Brooklyn. Ricochet and Pete Dunne have had a little to do here lately. Had an excellent match a couple of weeks ago for both the North American and the UK championships that ended in a no contest thanks to the interference of Adam Cole and the Undisputed Era. Had a good video package setting up everything for the main event. And also a reminder of the co-main events next week. You talk about some great matches coming up. We mentioned Hideo Itami and Mustafa Ali coming up in 2 weeks. Next week, we not only get the rematch between Nikki Cross and Bianca Belair, but we also get the big NXT Tag Team Championship match. Kyle O'Reilly and Roddy Strong of the Undisputed Era will be defending their NXT tag titles against Anthony Rowe, the War Raiders. So, the War Raiders have been lurking, kind of stalking the Undisputed Era for the last couple of weeks. The NXT tag title match finally about to go down. That could have major implications for what winds up happening in November. So we'll definitely be back here next week to cover that match. But Greg, all eyes on the main event last night. Ricochet, Pete Dunne, and Adam Cole, 3 of the best performers in NXT right now. I can't say that this match was as good as the Cruiserweight title match. And to be completely honest, I'm not sure, what kind of rating I would give this match. I actually feel like I almost robbed myself of a little bit of enjoyment because I didn't anticipate a clean finish. Honestly, I didn't anticipate anybody picking up a win. I thought it was going to be just another cluster with the Undisputed Era coming out and just prolonging everything. But as a matter of fact, we had a clean finish, a decisive finish. Ricochet picking up the win in last night's main event, defending his North American title successfully against Pete Dunne and Adam Cole. I don't think this is the end of their involvement with one another. I think it's just kind of a spot on the road, so to speak. It's just another mile marker on the journey that we're undergoing here. But, did not expect a clean finish, relatively speaking. That shocked me. It was a good match, but I think my big takeaway coming out of it was I want to see more. I feel like they're capable of more, and I want to see more from them the next time they all work together. What is your takeaway from last night's main event?
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. It was a good match. Like, definitely a solid match. It's definitely worth watching. You're never going to go wrong with all 3 of these gentlemen. Like, they put on amazing matches. It didn't live up to the Dunne Ricochet double title match from a couple weeks ago. That was still a much better match. But this was a solid match. It had some great stuff going on in it. You had Pete Dunne and Ricochet they started off working together to eliminate Adam Cole a little bit, and then Ricochet goes to shake Dunne's hand, and the Bruiserweight cold cocks him right there, and then it's on. Then you had Dunne doing a little single leg crab on both men at the same time. It actually looked believable, not like Ronda Rousey's double armbar from Super Showdown with it just looked kind of cheesy and hokey. This actually looked like something that was pretty believable and that could actually happen. There's some pretty incredible stuff going on here, and I always mark out for Pete Dunne and his little finger manipulation, wrist manipulation stuff. That just looks like it hurts like hell.
It's pure Billy Robbins there, joint manipulation on the fingers and the wrist and everything.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what that is. They had a nice little segment with the top rope move from Ricochet straight into the triangle to the power lift, back to the finger manipulation. I thought that was a really, really nice little part of the match. Yeah, it was a good match, but like you said, there's definitely more. If these 3 guys go together again on, say, a takeover match, I think that they'll just burn the house down. But it was a good match. I kind of with you. I was not expecting a clean finish. I was expecting something to happen. Wasn't sure what it was going to be, but I was totally expecting at least the Undisputed Era to stick their noses in there somewhere. So that was kind of a little bit of a shock, but overall, it was a good match. Definitely worthy of the main event spot, and yeah, no, there was not much else I could say about that.
Now, I'm going to put you on the spot here because we all know that that's what I love to do the most, is just put you on spur of the moment and have to pick and choose here. You have three of the most dynamic talents wrestling here. And I think we're both in agreement, and we're not talking spoiler here. We're just talking the sense that we get being longtime wrestling fans. These three men in some capacity are going to play into the War Games stipulation. I just can't see them not factoring into that match at this point, given the fact that it's a three-team setup in the NXT's version of War Games, and we know the War Games is coming back as a concept. So having said that, looking at these three individuals, Ricochet, Pete Dunne, Adam Cole, you got different ages here. Pete Dunne a little bit younger than Cole and Ricochet. Ricochet, obviously a very different type of wrestler from Dunne and Cole. And Dunne and Cole are very different from each other as well. You have three distinct styles, three distinct personalities, three very well-rounded and entertaining performers in their own right. I'm going to put you on the spot. If you had to choose one to say, this is my horse, this is who I'm riding, this is the person that I would build my own company around, which of these three are you taking? Ricochet, Pete Dunne, or Adam Cole?
Oh, that's a tough one. My heart wants to say Ricochet just because I'm a huge fan of him. But I think my head goes with Pete Dunne.
Ooh.
Pete Dunne has just that's something about him. He's got a charisma. He's got the high flying moves. He's got the bat base moves. He's got a unique look that not really anybody else out there has. And I think he's just got a very understated charisma about him. And he can cut a promo. He mean mugs with the best of them. He cuts pretty good promos that I've seen. And if Ricochet has any one big drawback to him, that's definitely it. Like his promo ability definitely needs some work. And Adam Cole, I like Adam Cole. Don't get me wrong. I know a lot of people say he's just a catchphrase, and that I see the arguments and of that, but Adam Cole's a good solid hand. He's a good promo. He's good in the ring. But I think if I were to be building a promotion and I had to choose one of those guys, I think the Bruiserweight would be my man.
We're going to propose this question in the advert thread over Cage Side Seats. I would love to hear everyone listening to weigh in on this subject too, because it is such a fascinating topic when you're talking about just the sheer talent in this match. And I don't want to make it out like this match was a disappointment. I think that it could have been more than it was, and I think you kind of were leaning the same way. It was still a very good match and a very capable main event for this week's episode of NXT. More plot-driven, I think, than wrestling-oriented, although this match kind of makes up for that in a big way. Probably would have this as my number 2 match of the week behind the Cruiserweight title match from Melbourne. That's just me personally. I think that Melbourne's title match between Cedric Alexander and Buddy Murphy was the best by far of any show this week, and that's including all the other main roster shows. But this match was fine for what it was, but we really have a lot of interesting programming coming up from NXT. Next week, the big co-main event that we talked about a moment ago, Nikki Cross and Bianca Belair are going to get it on. And then we have the NXT Tag Team title match between the Undisputed Era and the War Raiders. That's going to be a fun episode. That's going to be a really fun episode. Looking forward to that. 205 Live, of course, fresh lineup of matches next week that we'll be covering as well. All Eyes basically counting down now to the end of the month. Evolution and the Crown Jewel pay-per-view are the next 2 big shows. remains to be seen if the Cruiserweight title will have a presence on Crown Jewel. Obviously, it wouldn't at Evolution. But, the sky's the limit for both the NXT and 205 Live. So we'll see where things shake out. But, Greg, I got to be honest with you, it's a great time to be a fan because it sounds like some really exciting stuff is on the horizon for us.
Oh, absolutely. I'm expecting that tag match next week to be just bonkers. These are both amazing teams, very different teams. So that should be a very, very entertaining tilt. And Bianca Belair and Nikki Cross, we got the appetizer a couple weeks ago. And I expect them, and that was a good match. Like, don't get me wrong. We both felt that they were holding a little bit back. So hopefully they go a little more all out of this one, and it should be really good viewing. 205 Live has they're always putting on quality matches. So yeah, it's definitely, these are shows to be checking out. Definitely watch them if you can. If not, we have you covered, and we will give you the rundown every week. So please join us and give us your listen.
As far as this week's episode, I think we're going to wrap it up right there. Obviously, with the Cruiserweight title match at Super Showdown, a little bit of a different episode than ordinary. But we'll definitely be back with all of our regular features next week. Whenever we have one of these big title matches, we'll probably spend a little bit of extra time focusing on the big match because obviously we want to give the Cruiserweight title the love it deserves. But you know what? Good show this week for both 205 Live and NXT. Seems like we're on repeat. It's like Groundhog's Day. That's all we can say at the end of each show. It's worth the watch. If you didn't get a chance to watch last night, definitely go back and give it a shout. Very breezy, both shows. You'll not be disappointed. Going to turn it back over here to our host, Greg, to take us home. Again, next week we'll be back with our regular segments. The Power 5 will return next week. No submission this week, so no submission of the week to speak of. On a personal note, how did you survive Thanksgiving, Greg? Obviously, you're here with us tonight, so you survived in some capacity. Did you gain a few pounds on behalf of all of us meat eaters everywhere?
I definitely partook of more than my fair share of turkey. So I was in a little bit of a food coma. I had 2 big meals, one dinner on the Saturday, and then a lunch followed up the next day on the Sunday. So I was in a little bit of a food coma Sunday afternoon, but I survived. I put a little extra padding on for the winter. We need that up here. It gets cold, so nothing wrong with that. It was an excellent Thanksgiving. Got to spend a lot of time with family, so it was very enjoyable.
You're getting ready for that hibernation, eh?
Yes, exactly. Totally. That's basically our episode for today. We'll wrap her up. Give her contact info. You can always contact the show via email or the Twitter handle. It's on the episode right below the headers there. Hit us up. We'll answer any questions you have. We always look forward to any interaction with our fans. Me personally, you can find me hanging out on Cage Side on the daily for the most part, but I'm in some of the other threads as well under the name the Saskatchewan Spinning Nerve Hold. I'm also on Twitter at GW Klein, KLEIN 75. And if you want to hear me blabber on some more, I will be guest starring on our good friend Metal Matt's Ruthless Aggression podcast tomorrow night. We'll be chatting up about the 2004 Royal Rumble. So definitely tune in and give that a listen.
Wow.
It's going to be, if you remember who won that Royal Rumble, it's going to provoke some interesting conversation for sure.
That Royal Rumble match almost cost me my foot.
All right, then.
I'm not gonna. I'll elaborate later off the air. It's too graphic to talk about, but I remember that match very well. That's going to be a very fascinating show to cover. So, looking forward to catching that on Friday night for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely give it a check out. Metal Matt puts on a great show. I know you've been a guest star on it in the past, and I'm looking forward to my first appearance. Where can they find you, Biff?
Well, you can find me on the Twitter at Real Deal Biff. I generally try to answer any comments that I get. Generally speaking, with funny pictures. I love a laugh. George put this best yesterday. I have a real dry sense of humor. That's not me trying to be a smart ass necessarily, although it's definitely part smart ass. I just like to make people laugh. So if you get a funny picture or a gif from me, it's all out of love. You can catch me at Cage Side Seats during the daily and nightly threads. I do not take responsibility for anything I post at Cage Side Seats these days. I spend so much time listening to my smooth jazz that I kind of sleepwalk through some posts. I made one post a couple of days ago that I had no recollection of making. I literally posted it. So I have absolutely no responsibility, no liability for anything. So take that for what you will. You can catch me over at Two Guys, One Sport tomorrow night. We conclude our draft. I've been having a ball with these draft shows that Connoisseurs of Wrestling and Two Guys, One Sport have done over the last month. We're definitely going to have to figure out a time to bring this concept back because it seems like everybody really likes it. You can definitely catch me watching baseball playoffs. My boys, the Boston Red Sox, are moving on. They wipe out the New York Yankees. America's team has prevailed, taking out the great evil empire that is the New York Yankees. New York wanted Boston, and they got Boston, baby. Suck it, New York. Enjoyed the off season. Welcome to the golf courses. Good luck to the Red Sox playing the Houston Astros. They're going to need it. That's going to be a tough series. I don't expect to be this happy next week. Let's put it that way. Houston's a completely different animal than New York, but it's always fun when your team does well in baseball or any sport for that matter. So good luck to the Red Sox. Congratulations to Graham Gano, 63-yard field goal to win on Sunday. My boy, Graham Gano. And on a very serious note, definitely not wanting to make light of it, but just to reiterate, thoughts and prayers to everyone down south in Florida, Georgia, and here in the Carolinas that are going to be affected by Michael. This storm is just a monster. It's looking even worse than Florence was. Thankfully, it's going to be out of here a lot quicker than Florence. But, Georgia and Florida getting the brunt of the storm tonight, and then tomorrow the Carolinas going to get dumped on with wind and rain, precisely what we don't need, still drying out from Florence a couple weeks back. So if you're in the path of the storm, our thoughts and prayers are with you. I'll be in the suck with you for the rest of the day today and into tomorrow. Hopefully by Friday, we're in the clear here. So we just got to get through till tomorrow afternoon. But to everyone that's been affected by the storm, you're in our thoughts and prayers. So that's it for me. Take us home, my Canadian friend.
Well, that wraps up another episode of Grounds for Development. Thanks for joining us. We will be back at the same time next week for your listening enjoyment. Take care, everyone, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
No, I'm not going to do that. No.